Welcome back to the Miami Minute, where we cover my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins. And the legal tampering period has now begun, and we have a lot of news, actually, from the Dolphins. So, first and foremost, probably the reason most of you clicked on this video, Tua Tagovailoa is no longer with the Miami Dolphins. Yes, the man who they drafted 5th overall, the man who they tanked in 2019 for, and it ultimately resulted in them losing a pick, is no longer a member of the Miami Dolphins. Tua had some great times here in Miami. I wrote about him on Dolphins Talk. Go check Brian Maher out on Dolphins Talk. I'll have a link down in the description. But ultimately, we were never able to reach the playoffs and get a win. We were able to reach the playoffs, not get a win. Very importantly, longest drought in the NFL currently at 26 years and counting. And ultimately, Tua wasn't able to get the job done. So let's head over to Twitter and realize I recently informed Tua and his representation that we are going to move in a new direction at the quarterback position and will be releasing him after the start of the new league year. As I shared with Tua, I have great respect for the person and player he is. On behalf of the Miami Dolphins, I expressed our gratitude for his many contributions, both on the field and in the community during his 6 seasons in Miami. As we move forward, we will focus on infusing competition across the roster and establishing a strong foundation for the team as we work towards building a sustained winner. And that is, of course, our general manager, John Eric Sullivan. So, ultimately, not a big surprise. We got a new regime in. The new regime is going to want to shape the team how they want to. I will forever be disappointed that Tua didn't work out here in Miami. A lot of high hopes for him, and not a lot of those hopes met, unfortunately. It was never really a question of the caliber of person Tua was. He always seemed like a great guy, was very involved in the community, all that. It just ultimately came down to injuries and his declining, talent as those injuries took more and more away from him. I wish him nothing but the best wherever he ends up, but I can't say that I'm too sad that the situation has resolved itself. Ultimately, it was going to end one way or another. And if they couldn't find someone to trade for him, which, who would want to take on that massive contract, then the Dolphins were going to have to take the $99 million in a cap hit. And I saw, hey, silver lining, most money, given up to a player who's no longer on the roster. However, because the salary cap is much higher, Russell Wilson being released by the Broncos is actually more of a percentage of their salary cap when that happened. So a little bit of a silver lining there. Next up, we got kind of surprising, only in the sense that it's surprising he went to the New York Jets, but the Dolphins have traded their safety, Minka Fitzpatrick, once again. And that's from SI. The Jets sent a 2026 7th-round pick to the Dolphins in exchange for the 3-time All-Pro safety hours before the legal tampering period opened Monday to begin free agency. The trade can't be officially finalized until the league year opens up at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Additionally, the Jets will hand Fitzpatrick a new 3-year, $40 million contract to add help in an area where they desperately need it after failing to record an interception the entire 2025. That's rough. Fitzpatrick had 1 year remaining on his contract with the Dolphins, but with a non-guaranteed salary of $15.6 million, Fitzpatrick started his career in Miami as a 2018 first-round pick and spent 2 years there before being traded to the Steelers ahead of the 2019 season. That was during the 2019 season, but that's all right. The Alabama product was traded back to the Dolphins last season after spending 6 years in Pittsburgh. So, ultimately, the Dolphins needed some, salary cap space to make the moves they wanted to move, a move that we'll get to in a moment. But I've always liked Minka Fitzpatrick. I think he's a solid player. Do I like him for a 3-year, $40 million contract based on where the Dolphins were? Not really. I think it's great for him around 30 years old to get a giant contract, probably the last big one of his career. And you know what? Maybe he'll play really great for these next 3 years for the Jets, but I think it speaks to how the Dolphins feel about Fitzpatrick if they're willing to trade him to the Jets. So finally, and I guess right up there with the Tua news in terms of importance, because both the quarterback position, the Dolphins are expected to sign Green Bay Packer backup occasional starter Malik Willis. So the Dolphins agreed to a 3-year, $67.5 million contract with free agent quarterback Malik Willis. A source familiar with the agreement told UPI on Monday. Willis's agreement, which includes $45 million guaranteed, was reached the same day that the Dolphins announced they would be releasing former starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Willis, 26, completed 30 of 35 passes for 422 yards and 3 scores and no interceptions over 4 appearances last season for the Packers. The third-round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, who joined the Packers in 2024, traded from the Titans, went 3-3 as a starter through his first 4 seasons. And, most of those wins, I think all of those wins, were with the Green Bay Packers. So I'm excited. I think Malik Willis came into this league as a raw prospect who potentially could become a superstar. Obviously, he wasn't going to get the coaching he needed in Tennessee. Also, he got replaced fairly quickly over there, so it was never going to work out. He went to the Packers. He got to learn behind Jordan Love, a little bit more of an experienced player, and the Packers are, of course, a model franchise in the NFL in terms of teams that are always in the hunt and competing for a championship. It also makes a lot of sense that John Eric Sullivan, former Packers front office employee, now general manager of the Dolphins, and Jeff Hafley, former defensive coordinator for the Packers, now head coach of the Dolphins, would want somebody that they're somewhat familiar with in Willis. So I'm very excited. I texted one of my friends who is a Green Bay Packers fan, and he said it was a great signing. So hopefully, he was right, and this will be something for the Dolphins to look forward to. I think it does set an interesting precedent. Early in the morning today, when I saw Tua got released and I saw that Fitzpatrick was traded, I was like, all right, here we go. Tank time again. Be just like 2019. Going to burn it all down to hopefully build it back up. But now that Malik Willis is signed for a 3-year deal, I don't think that's the case. I think this team is going to try to be competing with everyone else, trying to win the AFC East and trying to be a team that makes some noise in the playoffs with this signing. So what are your thoughts about this signing if you're a Dolphins fan? And if you're a Packers fan and you want to chime in, please do. I need to know more about Malik Willis and how his fans feel about him. So let me know in the comments. Other than that, thank you so much for checking out this video. Check out my writing on dolphinstalk.com. Search Brian Marr. That's BrianMarr over there. Unless you're watching this on Miami Dolphins or on Dolphins Talk, where you can just click on my name here on the article page. So do that there. Make sure you subscribe to Wicked Sports if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.